Okay, so I have opened our meeting, and Mr. Moses, I asked you to give us our invocation, please.
Okay. We want to thank you all for gathering here together one more time just to do the business for the city of Florence. As we gather here today, may we reach sound decision where we can do best and we can do best to benefit the citizen of Florence. You are the best is us in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Moses.
Well done.
Absolutely. All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. And I have to apologize to the commissioners. I have missed the last two meetings with excuse, but so I have not had a chance, and y'all might have to retrain me to get back into the groove. But as far as the minutes are concerned, the commissioners that were here last month and played a role in that, do you see necessary to make any changes, corrections, or additions?
No.
Move we approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second to approve as the minutes were presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 The ayes have it. Thank y'all. All right. Little house business. I'm sure y'all saw the email that item 20, PC 2021-20 has been postponed and will not be discussed tonight. So our first item is PC 2021.
What about 19?
I'm sorry, 2019. I'm looking right at 19 instead of 21. Maybe it's because I want to be 21 again. All right, Ms. Elaine, report, please.
All right. Share the screen here. Yes, this request is to zone campus pending annexation. Parcel located 2924 West Palmetto Street, identified as tax map number 00100-01030. This is the location of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and it's located across from the First Assembly of God Church on West Palmetto Street at Brittany Drive, which is next to the apartments there. As you can see right now, it's in the county, but it is city directly across the street from it. And it is zoned campus across the street because there's a church there as well, and that is an appropriate zoning designation for a church. And the future land use designates it commercial auto urban, and this is a use that goes along with that. These are some pictures of it. As you can see, it's a fairly small building. They have parking in the front and in the rear. The lot and the building itself all meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance. So that concludes staff's report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from staff? I mean, from our staff, either the ones that are online and the ones here. All right, I'll open the public hearing portion of this and close the public hearing portion of this. I don't think we have anyone on Zoom regarding this particular item, do we?
No.
All right, I have opened and closed and call for a motion.
So
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. I've actually got two motions to approve and 2 seconds to approve. And I'll let the person taking the notes decide who got that. But any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And anyone against say nay. The ayes have it unanimously. All right, now jumping to 2021. This is a request for sketch plan review of phase 1 of Northgate subdivision. Ms. Elaine, staff report.
Yes. All right, this parcel is a portion of about 40-acre parcel located off of East Sam Harrell Road, just north of Old Marion Highway, Wilson Road. It is currently zoned RG2 or RG3, I'm sorry. And At the moment, and was designated residential suburban for future land use. At the moment, only 8 parcels directly on Sam Harrell Road have been proposed as part of this, but because there's more than 4 parcels, they need to come here for sketch plan review. They are providing 2 points of entry onto this, one of them off of that side road and one directly off Sam Harrell Road for future development, because the plan is to continue developing the interior of that lot at some future date. But this is what it would look like on the lot itself. And the engineer has looked at it and they don't have any issues with it. So water and sewer are available.
And this is preliminary. They have to come back to us with more detail.
No, not for a sketch plan.
Okay. All right. Any questions of staff? Hearing none, I'll open and close the public hearing portion of this, which there's not a public hearing portion. So any other comments? If not, I'll call for a motion.
So move.
I have a motion from Mr. Moses
Second.
and a second from Mr. Howard. A motion to approve and Mr. Howard to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 And the nays, no nays. So that passes significantly. The next and last item is one that is a little complicated. It's PC 2021-22. This is a request actually from City Council, and it stems back to our prior meetings on the convenience store on Oakland Avenue. I think the results of that through this commission that was approved, the City Council had questions, and they have challenged the planning department to come up with some more detail. And I think in their words, if I may read that real quickly, and I don't mean to steal your thunder, Mr. Dudley, says they want to mitigate possible nuisances caused by permitting commercial retail uses in close proximity to residentially zoned areas. That was the directive from the Florence City Council, if I'm correct on that. And so this request is going to impact a good bit of real estate, future real estate here in Florence. And I think it's a little bit more in depth than what we, and I'm jumping to conclusions, may be able to get our hands around tonight. So, and the reason I share this, Mr. Dudley has said that it may take another meeting for us to have a comfort level here. But Mr. Dudley, staff report, please.
Thank you. And I'm going to do a very brief introduction and then let Mr. Johnston take over and go through the details of the proposal. But you've done a great job of introducing it. It did stem from City Council and a rezoning issue that went before them. And they essentially tabled that annexation and asked Planning Commission to take a look at the commercial reuse district. And the commercial reuse district, the intent of that district is kind of like the old B1, if you're familiar with the old zoning ordinance. It's meant to be that transition area between our neighborhoods and our commercial areas where light commercials allowed. Uses allowed in the CR are meant to serve the neighborhood that it is adjacent to. So it's kind of a convenience district. It's not meant to bring traffic in from outside of that district. So a theater would not be appropriate there, but a small store may be appropriate there, or a barber shop, things that would serve the residents of that neighborhood. So that's essentially the intent of that district. And in staff's preparation of what you'll see proposed in this, we did glean from other municipalities. We did listen to City Council, their concerns and concerns of the neighborhood that called in and tried to put together what we thought, reflected those concerns and other municipalities, some of the things we gleaned from them and their similar neighborhoods. Now, obviously, when you enact regulation in one zoning district, specific in response to a single lot, you can have unintended consequences applying it throughout the city to that zoning district. So that's where we have to be really careful. So I did want to, and also say that this, staff did put this together. We're very open to the direction and recommendation from Planning Commission. We also realize that it's a lot to digest. It was a lot for us to digest and go through. And Planning Commissions, in your packets, you've only received them and been exposed to this for a week or so. So I can understand that it's a lot for you to digest and think through. So I'll preface that and I'll turn it over to Derek and have him kind of to go through the technical details of what we've proposed that we think may be a good starting point for the conversation and for the direction that Planning Commission might lead us.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Johnson.
Hey,
Well,
good evening, everybody. All right, let's get into the details. All right, so here's the map that Planning Commission was given. This is showing the commercial reuse zoning throughout the city. Predominantly Evans Street from downtown to King Cadillac, West Palmetto Street, Coit Street, and you do have some patchworked into Oakland Avenue, Dargan Street, and Second Loop. So as we said, we've been tasked by City Council to mitigate possible nuisances caused by commercial retail being in close proximity to residentially zoned areas. We have looked at other municipalities to glean some ideas. We've looked at our own zoning ordinance and tried to be forward thinking in possible nuisances that needed to be mitigated. So here are the text amendments that we are proposing. This is, and everything that we're talking about is just for the commercial reuse zoning district. This is just for the CR zoning district. So this is a table, institutional recreation and amusement uses for the commercial reuse. This is how it stands now. So we're just going to go through, these are the use tables as they are, institutional, commercial, and then the standards for, really the only condition for commercial retail now is that the commercial space cannot exceed 10,000 square feet. So that's it for commercial retail, cannot exceed 10,000 square feet, which is pretty large. Here are the use tables with the proposed changes. And as you'll see, private club, we've added a superscript. And if the use includes alcoholic sales or on-site consumption, it would require a special exception through the Board of Zoning Appeals to get approval.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Johnson. How difficult is it to get a special exception?
There
What is the
are,
process?
you would, the applicant would go before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and there is a set of criteria that the Board of Zoning Appeals uses. Let me grab my paper. That's a good question. It's a public hearing, right? So you will definitely get the opinions of the surrounding neighborhood. So for permitted special exception, criteria for approval shall not be of a type that would tend to undermine the implementation of an adopted plan that includes the parcel proposed for development. It has to be compatible with surrounding land uses. There's no practical alternative location within 1,000 feet. And then also shall adequately protect public health and safety against natural and man-made hazards. So what they would be looking at is the nuisance factor caused by allowing alcoholic sales, on-site consumption and off-site consumption in that particular location.
Right. But plus any other criteria or conditions that were written into the code that we felt were appropriate. So we could also, and as you see in as we go through some of these that are written out, you might have to be so far from a church or a playground. You might have to be, we could be very specific. In addition to these kind of generalized requirements, we can outline very specific things that would be required in that instance.
I think the reason I asked that question is there amended table 1-2.7.3 to make private clubs engage in alcoholic beverage sales or on-site consumption of alcohol in the commercial reuse district a permitted special exception. I'm just trying to think how that would not be a nuisance, to any neighborhood, but still make it a special exception. How would it possibly qualify?
And
A nightclub, loud music,
a
late night.
nightclub would, but many private clubs, by definition in our code, a private club is more akin to like a YMCA or a Moose Lodge or, an Elks Lodge, things of that nature. The intent of them is not to be a nightclub. So although we do have issue with private clubs, often, or clubs operating under the guise of a private club, we do have issue with that or problem with that throughout the city. But the intent of that designation is not a nightclub. It's more akin to having, like a fraternal organization or things of that nature.
I didn't really pick up on private versus nightclub. I guess I threw in a nightclub.
Right.
There's a big difference.
Right. But a private club, there are some throughout the city that do nightclubs, and things of that nature that do operate under the guise of a private club. And oftentimes that becomes a policing issue and or an issue for state law enforcement to enforce regulations surrounding.
And the Oakland Avenue reuse was a convenience store that was going to be and closed, and then they can redo it as another convenience store, which kind of answers that question. Is designed to aid that local neighborhood. And I don't even know if that was approved by city council. Do they allow that or not allow?
The rezoning would allow it. It would only be allowed to rebuild if it gets rezoned. So right now it's on hold.
Okay.
They can continue to operate, but they can't do any redevelopment.
Okay.
Does this have anything to do with that?
Yes, this is council's directive they ask us to take a look at the commercial reuse district, because that's what the proposed zoning is, in order to mitigate any of these potential nuisances associated with that.
Can we just take that parcel in Oakland and take it out of commercial reuse?
Right now, it is zoned neighborhood conservation.
Right, it's zoned residential.
That's why it's there. I mean, look at this map. The corridors are clear. Oakland Avenue is an outlier right now. I mean, it doesn't seem appropriate.
I agree with you there.
I mean,
It's true.
and because I'm thinking about these businesses on the corridor of Palmetto between Park and Queen, that's prime commercial property. Absolutely. I don't want to interrupt. I don't want to be telling them what to do as much as I want to tell someone what to do at Oakland Avenue. Those are very different areas.
Right.
And on the map, we also didn't highlight other commercial zoning districts. We only singled out the commercial reuse. So there is some other commercial properties along Oakland Avenue that carry a commercial general. And we'd be glad to supply those maps for you so you can see the I guess zooming in on those corridors to see the better transition, because it's either on the map we sent you, it's either commercial reuse or it's not. It's something else, but that doesn't mean it's not a commercial use.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Moses.
The main concern about that piece of property is because of the park. That's my major concern, that we are close to a park and we allowed a private club to go there. That's my number one main concern, because we're trying to clean up that neighborhood right there. And then we are creating we gonna do what we're gonna do is say we're gonna allow a private club to go there. And we can't put, that's residential zone is right in the neighborhood. We understand it was grandfather in year, well, grandfather in as it is now.
Yeah.
But if we can stop the sale of alcohol across from the park, we're not talking about 50 feet from the park there, that they're talking about private clubs, alcohol, and then I just can't see it. I don't, and we can further down the street. I know that we're trying to compare further down the street, Oakland Avenue, and I know there's a liquor store down there. And then going around the corner, there's another liquor store, and then why we want to create more. I don't know what this. In fact, I haven't been in that liquor store. They might be selling beer in there too. I don't know. But see, why we wanted to create something so close to the park, where kids gonna be playing basketball, where the kids could be playing ball here sometime coming up in the summertime. You know, and then we got the new center that you just built there for the senior citizens and all. You know, we trying to clean it up, and we allow that. I just 100% against it, and I've been against it ever since we started it. And then I'm just voicing my opinion and the way I feel about my neighborhood. My neighborhood, you know, I'm tired of hearing gunshots. I'm tired of hearing gunshots at night, daytime, and all this going on. And see, if we get alcohol there, then people get juicy up. You probably, you know, we don't know who got a gun. It's the law coming now that you could be able to carry a concealed weapon, open concealed weapon on your hip. You know, that's the way we got to look at it as a neighborhood, not just because we gonna have somebody come in and create a store. Yeah, they can sell a store. They can sell popcorn, you know, all this stuff. They can sell that. But my thing is just alcohol. And then you're talking about a private club. There's a private club down there now. You know, it started off as a private club, but now it's a nightclub. And see, I just don't see it in my neighborhood. You know, I just don't see it. And you compared about Evans Street, you compare about Second Loop Road. Yes, I understand that's a 4-lane highway down there on the corners, and then that's right off from the neighborhood, right off from the Burger Kings and all this down that way. But we talking about people living in this neighborhood. That's what I'm saying, and then that's my main concern. You know, we can debate all we want to, and I'm just one person, and I just don't want to be my neighborhood. I know you say that they can operate just like it is. Okay, sooner or later, the store gonna fall in anyway. They're gonna have to do something to it, because I believe they've been trying to do something for years and years doing it. You know, I just don't want it in my neighborhood. You know, put it in, like I said, I would put it in your neighborhood. I don't want it in mine.
Mr.
And that's my opinion.
Mr. Moses, I feel your passion, and I understand where you're coming from. And I'm just glad that Oakland Avenue, the fact that y'all are trying to clean it up is outstanding. It historically has been a high crime area. And I too, I heard gunshots every night, and I feel the same way. So thank you for stating that. Now, most of the time you mentioned nightclub, but then I think what we voted on last time was a convenience store, but they do, excuse me, they do sell alcohol. And so you're against the convenience store as well?
Say it again now.
Are you against a convenience store use as well?
Eventually, what's going to happen when they get that convenience store in there? They're going to apply for a liquor license. Always happen, never fail.
I'm being told by staff that they can't do that.
Well, they can go by the petition it.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is linking. I mean, I'm in full disclosure, that's the business I'm in. And I certainly don't consider the stores and the people that we work with businesses to the community of any areas that we have or operate or supply fuel to stores. And there is a big distinction, and that was why I was asking earlier, is this related to that? Because as I remember, Mr. Moses and others had concerns about that private club, and I don't blame them. I think that is absolutely warranted. And so I'm concerned about linking those two together because I think they're far different, complete opposites, in fact.
And
Where a convenience store serves the community and it does sell alcohol, it does sell tobacco, but it also sells bread and milk and juice and Pepsi, on and on and on, which is, something most communities need access to.
And you have to be 21 to buy the alcohol.
Well, that's right. And they're heavily regulated, and it is limited to beer and wine. It doesn't include hard liquor, which is a completely different zoning issue and setup. And so, as I read this and I see those two in the same sentence, to me, I would worry about that going across the entire city. That would be my concern, because that could preclude someone from putting a convenience store in a perfectly reasonable spot because of the concern it could also end up as a private club. I think if you carved out the private club and dealt with that issue specifically and didn't preclude the convenience store, that it might be more acceptable. Right. And I don't know.
And as the zoning code exists right now, with making no changes to it, the commercial reuse would not allow a liquor store in that zoning district.
Right.
It's very clear about that. Anything that sells over 50% alcohol, whether it be a liquor store or a party store, would not be allowed in that zoning district. And private clubs, they are afforded some state protections, which is why they are allowed in all zoning districts practically. So they are even allowed currently in neighborhoods. You can have private clubs. Now, the problem is, I think, what private clubs are meant to be and what they are sometimes interpreted or evolve into. And our zoning code in the definition section defines private club. And let me grab the zoning code and just read the definition of private club so that we're clear on that, such that moving forward. Let's see. Sorry. So a private club means organizations or associations of persons for some common purpose, such as a fraternal, social, educational, or recreational purpose, but not including clubs organized primarily for profit or to render a service which is customarily carried on as a business. Examples of private clubs include, but are not limited to, 4-H clubs, veterans organizations, Boy Scout and Girl Scout facilities, Elks Lodges, YMCA, YWCAs, private community clubhouses, golf clubhouses, and fraternities and sororities that do not include residential facilities. The phrase private club does not include organizations with a principal purpose of serving alcoholic beverages to its members or others. So that's our old zoning code did not include that. So I think a lot of private clubs slipped in, but this new code clearly defines a private club as not having the primary purpose of serving alcohol, which gives us the ability to shut down or not allow what we think of as a nightclub operating under the guise of a private club. But it would allow clubhouses and YMCAs and things like that to be ingrained in our neighborhoods.
But can I ask another question? we were talking about amending, that's what you said about, it. Can we put in there so many feet from park?
We can, and I think as Derek moves through this, what we've proposed, it has some language similar to that, and we made it, and at the direction of the planning commission, we could make that more stringent or less stringent.
Now, Department of Alcohol and Tobacco, don't they have their own guidelines and distances and stuff like that?
They do with regard to certain uses, like a liquor store.
Okay.
But if it's a convenience store that serves alcohol, they would not have those in place.
I've looked at restaurants and they were told that they had to be 300 feet door to door. They serve alcohol, they serve food too. But anyway, I digress. I know, Mr. Johnson, we just stepped right in the middle of your presentation.
No, this is great. We love the back and forth discussion. Thank y'all.
This is what we were hoping it would spur some of this and
Yeah.
cause some discussion and give us some further direction.
So what did we gain from, what did we learn from what we've been discussing?
I tell you what, I can tell you what I am, and you know, it's not a joke. I just don't want the alcohol beverages sold in my neighborhood across from the park. That's what I'm got trying to get y'all to learn. You say you didn't learn nothing. Don't sell in my neighborhood, cross from a park and cross from a senior center you just built there. That's what I'm trying to get y'all to learn. If you didn't get it, I've been getting it ever since we talked about it. But you're not, and a lot of people just not listening. If we talking about a neighborhood, senior citizen, a park, in a neighborhood, that's what my main concern, that's what I'm talking about. You know, I'm talking about a park, neighborhood, little kids at, and senior citizens at, which, you know, we had a little disturbance about a senior citizen going to get, well, in fact, got killed at a park here. But see, then while we're going to put that there, you know, I just don't see selling that. Give the people a lot of, you know, residential neighborhood across from a park and a senior citizen building there. That's what I'm looking at.
Well, Mr. Moses, we understand your position. What we're trying to decide is readjusting and revisiting this. And so can you put your concerns and argument into the form of how that should be written?
It should be written that we so many feet from a park or a senior citizen in a neighborhood, no alcohol beverages.
We have, as part of our proposed amendment, we do suggest that on-premise exemption be, or on-premise consumption be 300 feet, I believe it is, we proposed, from a park, school, public facility. I think we have a list.
That's in there now?
That's in there now. But that's for on-premise consumption, like a bar or even a restaurant that had a bar in it.
Yeah.
That it be so many feet from those uses. I think what Mr. Moses is proposing that we also include off-premise or on-premise consumption in that recommendation.
You've got highlighted here and off-premise consumption. Is that a modification proposed on page 31 of the agenda today?
You got the.
Are you trying to propose we modify the definition
Thanks.
of non-conforming uses?
Yeah, maybe get through the presentation
Yeah.
and
We
get
have a lot of
through
this.
get through the meat of everything, and then we could further the discussion. It might clarify a few things.
I like to make a
Might
statement.
make it more confusing. I don't know.
I want to make one statement, and Mr. Moses, you know, I understand your concern about alcohol, and I like the idea that not within up to 300 feet of certain things, such as your senior center and the park, but that convenience store will be convenient for beer sales or wine sales to the adults that live in that neighborhood that see that as a convenience, and then they're not necessarily criminals, and they enjoy adult beverage, and it's a convenience for them to have it there. And and we'll talk more in detail, because Mr.
Yeah.
Johnson, I think, has a lot of stuff to throw at
Let's
us.
get through it.
And let us
And when y'all
get
finish,
have some questions set up for next month's meeting. Ms. Hines, were you trying to say something?
no, Miss Greg.
No, I was
Greg.
trying to say something too. Excuse me. I agree with Mr. Moses in terms of having a distance with you selling beer and alcohol. There's been occasion in that neighborhood where there were adults that bought their beer and wine, and they would sit in the benches there. So much so until we had to talk to the police department about dispersing them from sitting in that area because children are playing there. So I do see a problem, especially since we have the senior citizens there now. So you have your seniors and you have your children. And I know this is for not just Oakland Avenue, but other areas in Florence, but Oakland Avenue is the main one that we're concerned about at this time. And I don't think selling beer and alcohol in the residential area with the seniors and children there, I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay.
I have a question. Hello, it's Greg.
Yep.
You hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was raised in that neighborhood. You know, that's where I was born, right there on Maxwell Street. And one thing I don't understand, I know they want to build, but to me, look like they want to do an after-school building. Because I'm against, well, I call it Chris, because when I was little, it was Chris. And we know they sell beer and alcohol. But yes, they sell beer and alcohol at Big T. They sell beer and alcohol at the liquor store. To me, if they want to tear it down, look like they would want to do something to uplift the neighborhood instead of tear it down. Because I don't feel like we got to keep having all these liquor stores for my uncles and my aunts to drink liquor and beer. You know, it's a new time. And that senior building, I don't know whether a lot of y'all know this. It took me 13 years to even ask the city to put something on that park. Now we got a new building. Now somebody want to build their new building. They want to do what they want to do. But to me, as the city, look like they say, we don't have no liquor store by the Boys Club. We don't have no liquor store by the Y. We don't have a liquor store by Maple Park. We don't even have a liquor store by Northwest. So why are we having a liquor store, our private club, by Isla Jones Park?
Well, we keep
You know,
telling y'all that the liquor store cannot go there.
No, a private club. A private club. Wait a minute. As far as I'm concerned, he can tear that building down. Put something instructive. We need after school program. We need daycare. He can put anything on there. He don't have to worry about no liquor and beer because half of their family already got liquor store all over North Florence, so that ain't a problem. So to me, look like he'll want to put up something to uplift the neighborhood. Put a private school, little kindergarten.
Well,
And they are right.
what else, Ms. Gregg, because he's in the business of convenience store business. We,
You know,
Ms. Gregg, I understand.
I know.
And
Wait a minute. I know all that. Wait a minute. I know y'all want me to see y'all point, but nobody want to see my point.
I do.
You know,
I've already heard.
I was raised there and stuff. I was raised there. Ain't like I'm living in this brick house on the other side of town. I was raised there. I live on Maxwell Street for almost 20, 30 years. I see the people going to the liquor store, going to the park. What good are we going to uplift Florence if we still doing the same thing? If whoever want that building, build a daycare. You don't have to be we don't need no convenience store. They can walk the Big T. They walk in there anyway. So y'all making it convenient. They making money because they know where the money at, because they know this figure. That's all we want, liquor, beer, and lottery tickets. We wouldn't be buying that stuff if they had to walk a mile to get it. So I'm against it too. You know, I don't know how it's gonna turn out. I'm against it. And I'm always against when you put something in there.
Ms. Gregg, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to, we know your position, you just shared it with us.
Okay,
But Ms.
okay,
Gregg
okay.
has a lot of material to throw out, and these questions
I
are
know.
going to be next month, okay?
Well, okay.
Please continue.
Thank you very much. Okay, so, and then also for private clubs, we were thinking that not just commercial reuse, but maybe there should be special exception in other residentially zoned areas as well. We didn't make that change here, but that's a possible change that we could implement. All right, and then commercial. So for commercial retail, again, a business that is engaged in alcohol sales or on-site alcohol consumption, it will require a special exception permit to allow that use in that particular location. And again, that is approval from the Board of Zoning Appeals to have that use permit. So here are the commercial use standards, and specifically the commercial reuse district. And these are conditions that are general to every business in the commercial reuse district. So these are just general conditions. So we talked about that a use cannot exceed 10,000 square feet of gross floor area. But everything highlighted is what we've added as possible conditions moving forward. Delivery, waste collection, and similar commercial traffic is prohibited between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Loitering, solicitation, disorderly conduct is prohibited at all times, and it will have to have rules consistent with City of Florence Code of Ordinances and also our Unified Development Ordinance. And these rules will need to be enforced by the proprietors, by the owners of the uses. Exterior sound amplification is prohibited, and they will have to follow the noise ordinance, which is already in our Unified Development Ordinance. And in the commercial reuse district, it's 55 decibels at all times, which is a conversation. A conversation is 55 decibels. Outdoor lighting shall be consistent with the standards of Division 4-11.1. And basically it boils down to you're not shining light on your neighbor's property. It's not a nuisance with glare, and that the city can in fact, if it gets bad enough, call it a nuisance and get them to change the lighting so it's not directly affecting your neighbors. Outdoor display of merchandise shall be consistent with the standards of section 3-8.2.6. In the commercial reuse district, you can only outdoor display 15% of the size of the building. So you can have 15% of the entire building you can have outside for outdoor merchandise. And the outdoor merchandise can only be displayed in the buildable area. So it's not out in the parking lot and things of that nature. So it will be done around the building.
So 10,000 square feet is not the definition of heated and cooled space. It can be exterior unconditioned space as well.
Gross floor area.
Because usually in determining square footage,
It would be air
That would be
conditioning.
under
Yeah,
and conditioned.
right. No drive-through facilities, which is sort of already spelled out in our code, but we just wanted to make clear, no drive-through facilities. The required permit, either special exception use permit or conditional use permit, shall be limited to the applicant and shall not be transferable. So the next applicant that comes along, change in ownership, they will have to go through the exact same steps to get permitted for that use in that location. And then beyond that, the planning director can impose additional conditions to try to mitigate any negative impacts. related to section 1-2.7.8, which basically lists things like lighting, noise, pollution. It's just kind of a list of possible nuisances that the planning director could add additional conditions to prevent. Okay, so we've gone through the general. Commercial uses with alcoholic beverage sales. So it would already have imposed on it those general conditions we just talked about. But since it's such a special use, we've imposed additional conditions on alcoholic beverage sales. So we talked about it needing a special exception permit, and that's approval through the Board of Zoning Appeals to even have that use. In addition, uses with on-site consumption shall be at least 300 feet from a church, school, park, or playground. And again, we could change that to not just on-site consumption, but also off-site consumption, as Mr. Moses was talking about. But right now, we just have on-site consumption. Alcohol sales in relation to overall sales shall not exceed 30%. So they can't just be in the business of selling alcohol. They have to perform, they have to sell other goods. That can't be their primary focus. And then,
Excuse me, Mr. Johnson, what is a typical percentage, Mr. Howard, of alcohol to other gas and other products?
Boy, that's a tough call. It varied significantly.
Yeah,
You know,
I just want to make sure that 30% is not too low or too high. I guess. Well, you just think about it.
yeah, I need to kind of run through some scenarios on that. Let me keep it secure on that.
Okay. Please continue, I'm sorry.
and then the total square footage also shall not exceed 30% that's dedicated to alcohol sales. And then these are conditions specifically for convenience stores. So they'll have to follow all the general conditions that we talked about. In addition to those, the gross floor area shall not exceed 1,500 square feet. Fuel sales shall not be allowed. Parking demand should be established per special studies. You get an engineer to come in and figure out your parking demand. And then that's something that the city reviews and approves, so we can figure out parking so that you don't have overflow out into the street and causing any sort of accidents and things of that nature. Applicable district buffer yard standards shall be supplemented with an opaque fence 6 feet in height. So beyond the buffer yard requirements that may be between commercial reuse and neighborhood conservation, if you're a convenience store, you have to meet those buffer yard requirements, but you also have to put a 6-foot opaque fence. And then the use shall not be open to the public between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Grocery stores, these are specifically for grocery stores. The gross floor area shall not exceed 5,000 square feet. Again, they will have to perform a parking demand study. And then again, with the opaque fence to supplement the buffer yard standards. And then the public will not be allowed to be there between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Personal services and professional services. This would be like a yoga studio, or it could be like a real estate office. The gross floor area shall not exceed 1,500 square feet. And then the use will not be open to the public between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. And then this last one, other retail sales and services is kind of a catch-all. The out-of-the-box retail uses shall not exceed 1,500 square feet gross floor area. And again, the hours are limited. They will not be open to the public between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. All right, so those were specifically for commercial retail, grocery stores, convenience stores, personal and professional services, and any other retail that doesn't quite fit into that box. These conditions are specifically for for, restaurants in the commercial reuse district. Uses with alcoholic beverage sales or any other on-site alcohol consumption shall require the special exception permit through BZA. Uses with on-site consumption shall be at least 300 feet from church, school, or park. Alcohol sales shall not exceed 30%, and the total square foot dedicated alcohol sales should not exceed 30%. Again, the buffer yard would be supplemented with an opaque fence 6 feet in height. The public will not be allowed between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. No individual commercial space will exceed 10,000 square feet. And the delivery, waste collection, and similar commercial traffic is prohibited between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Again, loitering, solicitation, disorderly conduct is prohibited. No exterior sound amplification. They'll have to follow the lighting for the Unified Development Ordinance. They'll have to follow the outdoor display of merchandise. We're just relisting these sections to make it easier when we go through the permitting process so that the applicant knows that all these ordinances are in effect. And then again, the special exception use permit or conditional use permit will not be transferable from person to person. And then again, the planning director may want to mitigate nuisances not listed, and he will have the power to do so. And then everything else listed is already in our ordinance. Okay, so that is it for the commercial reuse district. Those are the conditions that we are setting forth. But while we were doing research into this, we were looking at non-conforming uses. And a non-conforming use is something that would have been permitted in the past that is not permitted in our current Unified Development Ordinance. And minor non-conforming uses, you can actually get those permitted. There's a process to get your non-conforming use. You go through Board of Zoning Appeals, and they say, yes, this is not allowed here, but traditionally has been here. This is good, so they can permit that. And what we're looking at is major non-conforming uses listed or alcoholic beverage sales with on-premise consumption, but it did not list off-premise consumption. So we feel that that should be added as a major non-conforming use.
Right, and major non-conforming uses are not, they can't convert. I mean, if it's a major non-conforming use and they cease to operate for longer than 6 months, there's no way that they can convert back. So, and those are things like adult businesses. I mean, all the things listed here, pawn shops, things that could be potentially disruptive in the middle of a neighborhood where they often occur. And, it clearly outlines currently alcoholic beverage sales with all on-premise consumption. And based on the directives we received, we thought it might be appropriate to add and off-premise consumption to this list as well.
All right. Additionally, convenience store is not something that is currently defined in our ordinance. So this is a possible definition. General retail store, typically under 1,500 square feet. So,
5,000.
oh, I'm sorry. My face is in the way. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know how to move my face. Services oriented to convenience. You go in, you get 1 or 2 items. And then, and juxtaposed to that, grocery stores, general retail store, you have a buggy, you go in, you get your fresh produce, meats, cleaning products, a little bit of everything. And it's what your household would need for a significant period of time. Convenience store, you're in there for convenience. You don't have a buggy, you're just grabbing 1 or 2 items. So we feel that those are definitely that need in the Unified Development Ordinance. And that concludes that report.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I would like to suggest to the commissioners that we study this. Like Mr. Dudley said, we've only had it for a week, 10 days, and be prepared to have suggestions and more questions in our next meeting. I don't know if we need a vote for that or what direction we need to go in on that.
Well, since we added it to the agenda as an item requiring action, someone would have to make a motion to defer that or make a motion to that effect, yes.
Okay. Do we need discussion before the motion is made? I would like to say one thing, and it's not going to affect our decision to, postpone it to next month. I do think Oakland Avenue is a unique situation, and I do feel the concern, the passion that's there. I just wish there was a way that we could accommodate Oakland Avenue, like Mr. Hill suggested. It is affected by a great group of people that are trying to clean it up. And they got the park and they got the senior center. I understand their concerns. What I don't want to do is clamp down on all these other commercial reuse districts that it would be a great location for a convenience store or, some of these other uses. And I just wish we could treat Oakland Avenue different. And I don't know if that's even a possibility. Can have it rezoned to where, and is it fair to the property owner? I don't know any of that, but
I think they're on the right track with that language about adjacency to the park. I mean, that seems to speak to the Oakland Avenue problem uniquely.
yeah, but it's also going to impact every other.
I know.
That's right.
I mean, they're doing their best.
I know they are.
We need to massage it and study it and think about it,
It's a big
talk
decision.
about it
It's a big decision.
offline, and then come back.
Yes,
I mean, there is a truckload of issues. And
it is.
Right.
the unintended consequences, which one of you mentioned previously, and that's the thing you're got.
Yeah, and I think it's obvious that staff is not going into this recommendation or this language overconfident with this. A lot of times we come in, we feel like we've really nailed it, hit it on the head. Not so much with this one. This is where we're going to lean heavily on, we've made some suggestions. We will definitely continue to do some research on this, over the coming weeks. But we're going to lean on Planning Commission to help guide us through this. So
I would love to hear some specific instances of other communities that have dealt with an issue similar to this, and how, I mean, if you could provide that in the coming weeks, that would, I think, would be helpful.
The issue
All
being
of us.
Oakland Avenue or the issue being
Well,
Well, I'm thinking like Charleston, Columbia,
Yeah, I mean,
cities that have neighborhoods that are trying to maintain their character, but yet there's commercial interest.
but isn't that what's all already done?
we've done that through researching other zoning ordinances, but we could reach out to other planning organizations throughout the state. I mean, we have a network and a listserv. We could,
Maybe
I guess,
the
create some
question-
dialogue and ask some questions about specific situations.
One of the questions could be, how do you maintain small local convenience stores deep inside neighborhoods?
Right.
And maintain
Yeah, but you
character.
can't serve gas and that's to close at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but you ask the question,
Ask the
fair, ask the question.
sure.
And I also think that we need to, those areas where this zoning currently is in place, we need to have an understanding of what's there now. Because I guarantee you there are convenience stores in those areas that are highlighted all over the map you put up earlier.
Sure.
So, we can't do something that affects
Right.
folks,
And there are parks and churches and schools in those neighborhoods as well. I mean, Timrod Park is along Court Street. There's numerous churches along. It would impact a lot of those areas as well.
Right. So I think we just gotta be real careful.
So let me ask the commissioners that are on Zoom and voice, are y'all okay with us postponing this to next month.
Yeah.
Is anything that we can vote on tonight?
Well,
Yeah.
we can postpone it all we want, but we just don't want it in our neighborhood.
Oh, I understand. We know everybody's position.
That's the way I feel. We just don't want it in our neighborhood. We can postpone it to next year this time. But my thing is, we don't want it in our neighborhood. You
I
keep
got you.
postponing. Just tell the guy that we don't want the store built in our neighborhood selling alcohol.
What I want to make sure is that how we treat Oakland Avenue
Yeah.
needs to be different personally, because it is sensitive, and I understand your passion and quite frankly agree with you. But it's also going to impact all the other sites. I don't know if you saw the zoning map, but there are lots.
I visit those sites. I look at those sites, and I'm gonna take Second Loop Road,
Okay.
because you got one day on Second Loop Road, and this is across the street at Damon. That's where it's at. That's one they got there. And what it is, you see, is in right next door to it. You have the Burger King. I think Burger King or whoever came there, and it's not in the neighborhood. It's on a major road. It's on the 4-lane major road. We can go there. Okay, we can go further down Second Loop Road. We can go down to Chase. Chase? I think it's Chase. And
No,
it's
Chase, no.
yeah, right across from the Walmart there. It's one there also. And then you can go. Then we can go further out. We can go down Lucas Street. Lucas Street is in a main on the main street there, and that's leading out of Florence there. And
We're really kind of agreeing with you, and all I'm trying to ask right now is postpone. Will someone give me a motion to postpone to next month?
So
I
moved.
make a motion.
Okay, was that Ms. Gregg?
That one, Ms. Greg and Ms. Hines. Go ahead, Ms. Hines.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Howard seconded. Any discussion? Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And like sign nay, and the ayes have it. So we have a chance to do some work and give the planning department a chance to dig deeper into some alternatives, and we'll take it up next month.
Okay.
My next ask for a motion is Mr. Moses. We need to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.